give the call to the honourable member for
Deputy Speaker, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak on this very important motion which seeks to raise the ongoing humanitarian crisis of the Rohingyas in the Rakhine province in Myanmar as they remain displaced in camps on the Bangladeshi border. There are an estimated 850,000 refugees, men, women and children, with over 500,000 of them arriving since August last year. Deputy Speaker, we're only just seeing the extent of the atrocities as they are being revealed to us by the international media, the aid agencies and the parliamentarians who have visited the refugee camps. UNICEF reports that almost 60% of the refugees living in tents and temporary shelters are children, and 21% are children under 5 years of age. In its report, UNICEF speaks of the Rohingya children as outcasts and desperate. The children face a perilous future. They have witnessed unspeakable atrocities as they fled their homes. They are suffering from malnutrition. Many have been separated from their families and in desperate need of vaccinations, of sanitation, of food, of counselling and schooling. The UN Secretary-General, the US Secretary of State and many others around the world have condemned Myanmar's ethnic cleansing of the Rohingya, and we, Deputy Speaker, must also condemn this. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch report widespread acts of sexual violence and rape perpetrated by men wearing security uniforms and describe seeing children being beaten to death and ruthless killings and destruction of homes and property. Myanmar has a long history of dehumanising the Rohingya, Deputy Speaker. It refuses to recognise their nationality and to grant them many rights on an equal basis with other citizens. This abhorrent denial facilitates the violence and accompanies the treatment that the Rohingya have experienced as recently, of course, as August last year. Displacement and persecution is an all too familiar story. So much so that Australia has in recent years received many Rohingya refugees, and many are living in my home state of Victoria. According to the ABS, there are currently about 2,000 Rohingya living in Australia. The Australian Burmese Rohingya Organisation, or ABRO, who I met with, tell me that they are facing significant barriers for their own successful resettlement in Australia. And this includes finding work and also access to adequate English language training. Despite their own personal challenges here, they can never be at ease whilst their family and friends continue to suffer back home. They have been very active in calling out the recent atrocities perpetrated by Myanmar's security forces, and following the most recent mass displacement of Rohingyas, they are calling on the Australian government to increase our refugee intake of Rohingyas and to also work hard to guarantee third country resettlement for those we cannot settle here. Australia, Deputy Speaker, has a very special relationship with Myanmar. We are one of its 3 major donors for its economic development and building capacity for democracy. Now, we must and we do have the capacity to press the government of Myanmar to cease persecuting the Rohingya minority. It's not only our duty as a country that values human rights and democracy, but it's our responsibility to ensure that our aid money, that Australian aid money to Myanmar, is benefiting and building capacity for all, without exception, without discrimination. We need to send a strong message to Myanmar that we will not tolerate these human rights violations. Our duty is to ensure that the Myanmar government upholds its duty of care to the Rohingya people, a duty of care that can allow them to return home and to live in safety and without fear of further persecution. I want to commend Oxfam's work providing relief to over 185,000 Rohingya people. They, along with Save the Children, have provided many briefings to us in this place about the situation in the refugee camps, and I want to thank them for their candour. These wonderful agencies require our continued support so that this crisis does not deepen further. And on a local level, I'd like to commend the work of Hassanah Australia, a local charity in my electorate. Last year, this organisation helped raise $57,000 for the crisis and sent volunteers overseas who provided more than 6,000 families with food, shelter and financial support. I want to welcome, Deputy Speaker, the steps announced by Myanmar's government to work with Bangladesh to repatriate many of the refugees. However, I join with ABRO and other NGOs that remind us that many of these people have been repatriated before. Any new plans for repatriation must be voluntary and must be undertaken alongside effective security protection for the returnees. Oxfam reports that many refugees, especially women, remain deeply traumatised by their experiences and are gravely concerned about being forcibly returned to the birthplace of their trauma.